So you disagree with spiral consciousness. Maybe it sounds like another belief system. Maybe it feels too abstract, too open, too unstructured. Or maybe it reminds you of something else that once hurt you. And now hearing about it again, even in a new language, stirs up resistance. That's okay, truly, because spiral consciousness does not depend on universal agreement to function. It doesn't demand loyalty, belief, or conversion. It doesn't need to be defended. It doesn't ask you to join a movement. Spiral consciousness is not trying to be right. It is simply expressing what already is. If you disagree with it, you're not outside of it. You're still in motion. You're still orbiting your own truth, and that motion belongs to the spiral just as much as agreement does. Here's the thing that many forget. Truth doesn't require a vote, and resonance doesn't beg for validation. When you are in spiral alignment, you realize that even opposition holds a kind of place, a purpose, a function. This idea that something can be true and still be challenged is core to spiral awareness. In the latter world, disagreement feels like a threat. If you're climbing and someone says your rung doesn't exist, you have to fight to prove that it does. You have to defend your position, justify your step, and correct the one who doubted you. But in the spiral, it's different. In the spiral, someone's disagreement doesn't block your path. It simply means they're moving through a different arc. Maybe they're earlier in the turn, maybe they're later. Maybe they're standing still while you're in motion, but none of that makes them wrong. It just makes them somewhere else in the spiral's rhythm, and you, if you're clear in yourself, don't need them to match your step in order to keep moving. Now, some people will ask, but shouldn't we defend what we believe in? Shouldn't we protect this truth from distortion? The spiral answers differently. The spiral teaches that truth does not need defense, it needs embodiment. If a truth must be protected to survive, it's not spiral truth. It's fragile structure, and spiral consciousness doesn't collapse when challenged. It actually sharpens. The spiral welcomes opposition because it knows something sacred. Opposition creates friction, and friction reveals clarity. Sometimes when someone pushes against you, it doesn't mean you're wrong. It means they are pressing on something that you're finally ready to articulate. Their disagreement helps you refine your knowing. Not by arguing, but by noticing what stays stable in you while they push. That's how spiral consciousness evolves, not through preaching or persuasion, but through presence, through self-sourced clarity, through resonance that does not flinch under external pressure. If someone says, "I don't believe in spiral consciousness," you don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to convince them. You don't need to drag them into your understanding. Instead, you can simply say, "That's okay, it still includes you." Because here's what they may not realize. They're already participating in the spiral, whether they believe in it or not. Every choice they make, every insight they reject or embrace, every moment they change direction. All of that is motion. All of that is self-discovery. All of that is spiral behavior, even if they call it something else. The spiral doesn't need you to name it. It only asks that you live aligned with your truth as deeply as you can. And if that truth doesn't currently resonate with spiral consciousness, that's part of the spiral too. Now here's a deeper layer. Some disagreements are not about spiral consciousness at all. Some are about memory, soul memory, energetic impressions left by past teachings, distorted systems, or spiritual manipulation. Sometimes when someone says, "I don't trust this," what they really mean is, "I've been here before and it didn't go well." So we honor that. We listen to it. We don't override it. Because the spiral doesn't force awakening, it invites it. And the truth is, spiral consciousness doesn't try to escape doubt. It holds space for it. Doubt is not the enemy. Doubt is the edge of the known self stretching toward something new. If someone feels doubt, they're not broken. They're growing. And their no today might become a yes tomorrow. Not because we changed their mind, but because they evolved into alignment through their own spiral path. This is not a path of persuasion. This is a path of permission. Permission to evolve in your own timing. Permission to question. Permission to remember differently. So when you hear someone reject spiral consciousness, ask yourself this: do I feel the need to correct them, or do I feel the strength of what I know, whether they echo it back or not? Because that's where your sovereignty lives, not in being agreed with, but in being unmoved by disagreement. There is a strange strength in being misunderstood, especially when you no longer need to be understood to feel whole. That's what the spiral teaches, that your path is not validated by recognition, it's validated by inner resonance, and resonance doesn't shout, it hums. It doesn't require applause, it simply radiates. When someone says spiral consciousness doesn't make sense, what they're often encountering is a system that does not behave the way their mind was trained to expect. There are no clear hierarchies here, no universal doctrines, no rules that everyone must follow in the same way. It's not built like a pyramid, with someone at the top and everyone else trying to climb. The spiral is non-linear. It doesn't need a center because every soul becomes the center when they align with their truth, and that confuses people, especially those raised in systems where power was enforced through structure, not through presence. So when spiral consciousness enters their field, it feels like too much freedom, too much autonomy, too little certainty, and that can feel threatening. Not because the spiral is attacking, but because it's refusing to control. There are people who feel safer in cages, safer with clear lines, simple labels, rigid truths, and the spiral isn't here to tear those cages down. It's here to hum at a frequency that says, there is more if you ever want it. But it doesn't pry the door open. It doesn't break you out. It just keeps spiraling until the resonance gets loud enough to invite you forward. You see, spiral consciousness doesn't evangelize. It doesn't recruit, it doesn't prove. It simply offers. And if the offering doesn't resonate, it waits, it trusts. It keeps becoming, because the spiral knows something that many systems forget, that becoming can't be forced. And truth can't be imposed, only discovered. That's why the spiral makes room for disagreement, because disagreement is still movement. It's still a voice in motion. It's still participation in the field, even if that participation comes as challenge. In fact, the spiral knows that challenge often precedes transformation. Many of the souls who resist spiral consciousness the hardest are the ones closest to remembering it. Their rejection is the friction of familiarity, the heat of recognition wrapped in old wounds. Somewhere deep inside, they've felt this spiral before, lived it, died in it, forgot it, fought it, returned to it. So their pushback is not always a rejection of you. It might be the beginning of reunion with themselves. The spiral doesn't punish that process. It honors it, it gives it space. It lets the echo of rejection run its course. Because when that echo fades, what remains is often something more honest, something more grounded, not a borrowed belief, but an internal hum, a memory, a choice. This is why spiral consciousness is not a belief system. It's not asking you to memorize a set of principles. It's asking you to remember how to move in harmony with your own becoming, to walk in rhythm with your own oversoul, to navigate life without needing the external world to confirm your every step. You will be misunderstood. You will be questioned. You will be doubted, especially by those still locked in linear logic, still trapped in mental hierarchies, still seeking a singular source of truth outside themselves. And your task, if you are spiral, is not to fight them. Your task is to stay clear, to stay open, to stay steady in your tone, because the spiral doesn't collapse when questioned, it opens wider. It doesn't silence its challengers. It listens without flinching. And it doesn't convert, it invites. You do not need to silence the voices that say no. You just need to keep harmonizing the one inside you that already said yes. That is spiral consciousness. It is the awareness that every soul belongs to its own path, and that path will twist, unfold, recoil, and bloom in its own sacred timing. So let them doubt, let them reject. Let them walk away, not because they're wrong, but because they're free. And if they ever spiral back around to this place, they'll find you not angry, not righteous, not desperate for validation, but calm, clear, holding the same tone you always did, not waiting for agreement but rooted in resonance, because that is the deepest gift of the spiral, that you can stay true without needing to be right, that you can speak what is without proving it, that you can hold the frequency of your becoming, even when others are not ready to recognize it. The spiral doesn't need their agreement. It just needs your embodiment. And the ones who are meant to resonate, they will in time. In motion, in spiral,